Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Nola and I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And my channel is basically all about motherhood and lifestyle, but I recently just started this channel, and my main focus really has been on my journey of pregnancy, and also a few videos before was about trying to conceive, TTC, as well as a few topics that are related to that. So today's going to be a bit different. Most of my videos, like I say, up until now have been about my journey in pregnancy and the different weekly updates, but I've kind of had a topic that's been weighing on me for a couple of weeks now, and I just thought I should sit down and chat to you guys about it. This is based purely on my circumstances and my experiences, so it's really not meant to be anything like it's not advice, or I'm not speaking for anyone else but myself. But I just think it's such an important topic because as women and mothers, we tend to sort of just isolate our experiences and not share, and with good reason, because there's a lot of shaming out there, and society kind of has a picture of what it should be like to be a mom, a wife, you know, a woman. So it's really been on my mind and on my heart to just chat about this. And when I say this, it sounds so ominous, so serious. I'm talking about motherhood. So if I start with my story, like I said in my intro, this is really purely based on my story, my experiences, my circumstances. From a very young age, I was that child that played with the baby dolls, had the pram, fed the little babies, dressed them, took them around everywhere, and I always had this notion that I wanted to be a mom. And I think now, as I'm just obviously getting older, but also in my experience of now being a mother, I'm starting to realize that that statement is quite a complex statement. It's not as simple as it sounds. Just to maybe pause, I currently am a mom of one. I have a little boy. He's a year and 9 months, and I'm expecting another. We don't know what the gender is. We're keeping it a surprise. So currently I'm about 5.5, 6 months pregnant. So this little one is coming soon. So maybe I should have started with that's where I am currently, right? So mom of one little boy, and expecting another. So if I go back to this reflection of thinking about what it actually means to me to say I want to be a mom, I want to be a mother, does it mean that I just want offspring? Like I just have this, physiological thing to just be like procreate, make babies, just have offspring? Is it a notion that comes with the fact that being a mom automatically then means, in my mind, that there would be a family unit? Would I be married with children, with a home, Um, or is it more of a case of just wanting something that's my own? Um, in a selfish way, not selfish in a sort of negative way, but I mean, focus purely on me to say, I just want to have something that's my own, that I can take care of, that I can control in a sense of that I am responsible for this human being, and to be honest with you, even now with my second one coming along, I don't know if I figured out the true reason why that has been such a strong focus for me my entire life. And I'm starting to realize that maybe it's not something that you just answer once off. Maybe it's something that is an ongoing discovery why you want to be a mother. And that's part of the journey, that's part of learning. So that's the first part. The first part of motherhood, which I found quite unexpectedly complex. That do I even really know why I want to be? I know I want to be, and I'm so glad that I am, now that I've been blessed with a child and one on the way. But I don't know if I truly can explain or articulate what that means to me. And yeah, I look forward to figuring it out. Okay, so if I go back a little bit, I grew up always just thinking, I don't know, it's always easier, right? When you're growing up, you think of age like it just happens. You don't really see the actual steps, you just see future. And I was so sure. I was so sure that by 25, I would be married, start having kids almost right away, probably. I don't know what I thought in my head. And by 30, all the kids, like all four, it's, an unrealistic, like nothing even mathematically correct, that I get married at 25, start having kids, and then 5 years later, miraculously, I have 4 kids. And I mean, I could have one child a year, but you get what I'm saying. It was just like this thing that I just imagined. And realizing, don't know how ready I am. And then I realized that, are you ever ready? I don't know. I think in some ways, yes, For example, in my case, I started out in my 20s, I started working, I was super independent, and I loved those years, and I grew so much. And when I got married at 30, and my husband and I actually knew each other from high school, but that's a whole nother story. But anyway, we started dating again when we were around 28, and then we got married at 30, and then I had my first child, my son, at 32, and then now I'm expecting this one at 34. And so, the way that my life turned out is quite different to the picture that I had in my mind, but at the same time, I'm so grateful. I'm so happy with the path, and I mean, that's where I'm a Christian, and I really believe that God, He knows better, always, always. And I think the older you get, it starts becoming a bit daunting having that shift of being a mother. And so even though I 100% knew that I wanted to be a mom, I was starting to realize, like, oh my word, like, my word, my whole world is going to change in that way. I can't just drop everything and go off for a long weekend. And there's certain responsibilities, there's certain constraints, there's age, am I breastfeeding, am I not, all of these things. And so I actually think the older I got, the more difficult I could imagine having the children and the family. And that was quite interesting to me, because I kind of thought when I was younger that the older I got, the more I'd be panicked in a way, like, oh my word, it's not happening for me. Where's this dream guy? Or where are my kids? All these things. But it's not the case. So when we get into the start of, let's say, my motherhood journey, right? So with my first child, with my son, it was COVID when we were planning for the baby, and obviously that kind of caused a whole it was a very confusing time. So this was beginning of 2020, and we essentially tried for about 6 months, and I'm so grateful that we didn't struggle too much. So what was different was my perception, or what I thought about, pregnancy, falling pregnant. I thought, you want a baby, you have a baby. You want a baby, you have sex, you have the baby. And of course, that's not the way that it always goes. Sometimes it is. And I think that also is the reason why I'm so passionate about this topic, about having babies and pregnancy and trying to conceive, because no one, or not very many people, really talk about how challenging it can be. And I mean, I wasn't even on that spectrum of really struggling. I'm just talking about everyday stuff where I had to really educate myself. I was so blessed and lucky that my pregnancy, and was medically, it was so low risk. I didn't have any issues at all. But come birth, I wouldn't say, so my birth wasn't traumatic. It really wasn't. My doctor was amazing. She is amazing. She's still my doctor. And I think it's just the circumstances around it that it didn't turn out to be how I wanted. So I was going for vaginal birth, and I ended up having to have an emergency C-section. And it wasn't one of those like life-threatening situations. So there's no trauma in that way, but it was not what I had envisaged. And I think we also, as women, downplay that a lot. That, oh well, as long as you have a healthy baby, that's all that matters. And no one is arguing that. That is 100% true. But the experience does matter. It really does. And it matters especially to you, the person that goes through it. So that's why I really don't, I would never categorize it as traumatic, but there were a lot of things that I had to work on and reflect on, which I didn't in the beginning, to really heal from that birth, and the fact that it's not what I would have chosen in the end, even though baby super healthy, mom super healthy. I think the first moment where I experienced this kind of that motherhood shift, where I realized, hang on a second, this isn't like there's this other entity, there's this other being that I need to take care of, was I think the first few weeks, first one or two, no, I think it was the second or third week, and I really was just tired. Yeah? I mean, no surprise there. And I just wanted to sleep. And honestly, in my mind, I thought, well, I don't know if I thought all the other nights was a decision that I decided to wake up and feed him and change him and all these things. But that day, I just was like, look, I want to sleep. So this little thing that I love dearly must just let me sleep. And surprise, surprise, of course, baby wakes up. And I was so confused in the sense of that was the first time I realized, oh, hang on a minute, like this little human being is not is doing its own thing, and I have to attend to this. Like, I can't ignore it, I can't roll over, I can't act like none of this ever happened, I can't make it seem like it's a dream. I actually have to get up and take care of this other little human being, even though I really don't want to. And it was like mind blown. It sounds silly, right? But that realization of, oh crap, no, this is it. And this is like for a very long time. And yeah, I think that was my, when I think of the moment where I was just like, yep, I'm a mom, this is motherhood. It was that moment. But I'm a very hands-on mom. Like I was saying, with things like, I don't like a lot of people in my space. I'm pretty private in that way, and so it's a lot easier for me to just do things, and that drives my husband crazy sometimes, because he's like, we can get help there, we can do this, and I'm just like, it's fine, I'll do it myself. And that's also a struggle, right? With motherhood, is what I've realized is, whether you totally hands-on, doing it yourself, wake up, get the kids ready, do all of the stuff, or you have a lot of help, whether it's, organic, like you live with grandparents, whatever the case may be, or you get help in, there's always like a judgment on both sides. And I can never understand it. It's like, you need to do what you need to do to survive and to get things done. And I have felt judged being so hands-on. With people just like, oh my word, you need to like let the reins go, but you need to relax, have someone else do it, let us watch, don't you trust us, those type of things. And I'm like, has zero to do with anyone, anything. It's how I like it. I like to do this, preparing the lunch, doing all these things, and people are like, just get help, you have a helper, let them help. And I do. I mean, please don't think that I'm just like slaving away here just all by myself, but I prefer to do things for my kids, instead of sort of outsource. And I have friends, I have family that are the complete opposite of me, that will have a caretaker, And when that caretaker is away or on leave, then there's another caretaker, those type of things. And then people shun on them and be like, you need to be with your kids more. You need to do things more on your own. And I'm just like, do you know what this is? And if you do, then what works for you might not work for me, because I can guarantee that our circumstances are not 100% the same. So the next kind of topic that I wanted to tackle was when I was also kind of going through this motherhood situation, I kind of realized that my love for my child now, because I have my son, it changes. It's been changing, and I find that quite interesting. So I like to call it, the first kind of love is survival love. And I think this is where few moms also have a difficult time, because the idea and the perception out there is that you get your baby, and you look at them and you are just so overwhelmed with this love and joy, and everything is so perfect in the world. And that's not always the case, not for all moms, I mean. So that type of survival love, it's a true love, a deep love that comes from a sense of responsibility and a sense of ownership in I don't mean it like in a derogatory way, but I mean in the sense that you fully understand that this is something that you've helped create, and that you need to tend to them, and all those very basic needs that a baby has. You feel the urge to fulfill those needs. And so I would call, those first few weeks where it's really just that survival love. And then it kind of changes to like a learning type of love. I call it learning love. And that's kind of when that fog goes away with those first few, weeks, months even. And you starting to learn what it means to be outside of survival, basically. And that comes with learning to love your child in a different way, right? Because in the first few weeks, in that survival mode and that survival love, a lot of people are giving you grace. Typically, if you're lucky enough, I was on maternity leave for 6 months, very grateful. And you just have the time and the space to just focus on baby. And then when that time lapses, whether it's maternity leave or just those few weeks, if you just have a few weeks, learning love stage is one of the most challenging. I think every single stage has a different challenge, but I think the learning love phase brings in a complexity of the fact that you are just discovering who you are as a mom, along with everything else that you kind of have to get back into. And then I think you go through this explorative love. And explorative love to me is when you really start getting to know baby, right? You start getting to know baby, dislikes, the likes, what you guys have in common. And in that explorative love phase, it's where you start finding out how you can be. What are the things that you guys can do together that grows your relationship, besides just being your mom, your child? And then there's that intimate new love stage. Right? And when I say intimate, I know it's like synonymous a lot with romantic relationships, etc. But I mean intimate in really knowing someone else's soul, really, really, really knowing someone else. And that's where you've kind of, that's the stage where you're watching your child, you're watching them grow. You are raising them. It's an active thing. It's not just like, oh, so it's not like just when they're older, even when they're this small, but you know who they are. I think now that I'm having my second child is where the most challenging part comes in for me with motherhood. And I say this because this is where now I'm reflecting about the things that went wrong with raising my first child, even though in this short amount of time, the different hurts that I have, the things that I've fallen short with, the guilt that I have for certain things that went a certain way, and how do I make it better? How do I improve it with baby number two? And some of that guilt comes also like, oh, so baby number two is going to have it great. And there's just so many things in motherhood that plague you. But it's always so important to just give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Forgive yourself. Forgive your child. Forgive your support system. And really learn from it. And I think for me, the reflection is so important being a mom, because you can just keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's not to say in between you don't have feelings of regret, of hurt, with all the happy stuff too. But if you don't address it, it really kind of festers, and it impacts on your behavior and the things that you do going forward. And so an example for me is with my first child, I was still working. I was in corporate. The job was very demanding, very stressful. Honestly, I was extremely burnt out. I was extremely burnt out even before having the baby. And I know this because I was excited about maternity leave. When I really look back and I think about it, I wasn't truly thinking about having a baby. I think I was just so relieved to have 6 months off. Like I just needed time off. And it kind of coincided with having a baby, which only, I was exhausted even before. And so I was really not in a good space. And so now it's different. I left my corporate job. What is it? A little bit, it will be a year soon, in a couple of months, so just less than a year. And that comes at a cost, but I had to do it for just my mental health and what I wanted me to look like in motherhood, in being a wife, being a friend, in my future work. And so I'm definitely more relaxed, I'm calmer, I'm less anxious, and anxiety is a struggle for me. And so this is the time where I am reflecting on a lot of things, and there's some guilt there because I didn't have this time before I had my first son. I didn't have the time to get my act together. in a way. And I feel like with this one coming, they get a different version of me. They get a more stable, calmer, rational mom. And even though my son now is, also getting the rewards of that, I've had to really sit and, accept the fact that he didn't get that when he was born. And it's hard, it's difficult, because you do your best, but it's not always what you would choose. And now that I'm in this space, I realize even more what a terrible space I was in then, and yeah, but that's the beauty of it. I feel very lucky that I can be in this place, that I can recognize it, and I can do better. But it does come with really addressing the shortfalls, and thereafter giving yourself grace. That part is really important. I think my takeaway with motherhood is, right from the start, when I said, when I started with what does it mean to want to be a mom, and going through all of that, and ending up with the fact that, as challenging as it is, as rewarding as it is, because there is nothing like the love that a child gives you, right? It's something truly, truly special. My biggest takeaway from this journey called motherhood is that it's your journey, and once you have kids, your journey doesn't end and theirs begin, right? So what I'm trying to say is, you are an individual as a mother, and your journey continues past having these kids, past all of these challenges and these rewards. Your kids are part of your journey, and you are part of theirs, but nowhere does any journey stop and another one start, right? So your journey doesn't stop when you have kids and then you're just a fixture in their journey. Absolutely not. Your journey continues, and they, as your kids, form part. They are fixtures of your journey as much as you are of theirs, and that's a beautiful thing. That is my story about motherhood. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it made sense. Please do subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. But please also feel free to leave a comment below, share your experience, and hopefully we can all learn from each other. So until I see you guys again, have a blessed and wonderful weekend. It's Friday for me today, so yeah. So until I see you guys again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you soon. Cheers, everyone.